بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله تعالى وخير الهدى هدى محمد صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. Inshallah, ikhwan, today is our first class that we're going to have after discontinuing the classes due to different circumstances. Nasallallahu azza wa jal al-afiyah wa salama. We're going to give some advice today, bi-idhnillah, and touch upon an issue that we want to remind you of its importance, because this is something that has happened recently, and for some odd reason, for some strange reason, we didn't find the khutbah of the UK and the mu'adh, or those people who are giving classes and exhortations, we didn't find them for some odd reason touching upon this issue enough. For verily it is from the ayat of Allah Azza wa Jal, and it's something that we need to be reminded of and we need to reflect upon. So we'll start the continuation of our dars in the Kitab al-Kaba'ir to al-Imam al-Dhahabi rahimahullah ta'ala, not next week but the following week. But there will be a class next week, bi-idhnillah. And we're going to give this advice, ikhwan, and it's not going to be very, very long because it's late. In addition to that, we have a driver who's quite tired, and we want to make sure that we get back with a salama. What we want to remind you of has something to do with what Allah has dealt with in the Quran in a number of ayat, in a number of stories. Some of the examples that have been given, like the statement of Allah Ta'ala, وَتِلْكَ الْأَمْثَالُ نَضْرِبُهَا لِلنَّاسِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. And those are the examples that Allah has given to you so that you will reflect. In another ayat of the Quran, He said, وَذَلِكَ يُبَيِّنُ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ آيَاتِهِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَهْتَدُونَ. And for that reason, Allah, He has explained to you some of His signs in the hopes that you will be guided aright. So Allah Azza wa Jalla has given us a number of stories and a number of incidents in the Quran for our reflection and our ability and need to ponder upon those issues. And from what He has done from those ayat is He has given us a number of stories in the Quran, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Mustafa al-Amin has also given us a number of stories in his authentic sunnah of the role that many young people have played in defending the truth. And unlike some of our cultures will have you to believe that the young person is a person who just listens, but he doesn't have a role to play, and he's oppressed, and the haqq is never with him. Whatever the one who is older than him says or feels has to be executed and paid attention to, whether it's the Asian culture, the Arab culture, the African culture. This is not the case. The haqq is not the right, nor is it the property of any individual, nor is it the haqq or the property of any group or culture. The haqq can come to us even from those who are from the most irreligious of the people. As that Yahudiya said to our mother Aisha radiyallahu anha when she said, نِعْمَ قَوْمْ أَنْتُمْ يَا مَعْشَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ وَأَنَّكُمْ لَمْ تَقُولُوا مَا شَاءَ اللَّهُ وَشَاءَ مُحَمَّدٍ. You Muslims, she said, are good people if you just didn't say MashaAllah and Sha'a Muhammad. She said, you're making shirk when you say MashaAllah and Sha'a Muhammad. So when Rasulullah came sallallahu alaihi wasallam to our mother Aisha, she told her what the Yahudiya said to her, and Rasulullah said sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Sadaqat al-Yahudiya. That Jewish lady told the truth. So if the haqq comes to us from a non-Muslim, we're going to take the haqq. That doesn't mean that you give your ears and your eyes and your heart to every deviant and every call. That doesn't mean that you go and you listen to the lecture or the talk and you learn from every deviant. It doesn't mean that. But what it means is if the haqq comes to you from someone like you, older than you, younger than you, a woman, whoever the haqq comes to him, he has to embrace the haqq, because Allah Azza wa Jal, He is al-haqq. And the haqq should be more beloved to us than our own selves. So from what Allah Azza wa Jal has shown us in the Quran, from His signs, is what happened when He said, Tabarak wa Ta'ala, قُتِلَ أَصْحَابُ الْأُخْدُودِ النَّارِ ذَاتِ الْوَقُودِ. He said that those people of the ukhdud, the ashabul ukhdud, they are cursed. Those people who made the fire extremely big and they ignited the fire. وَهُمْ عَلَيْهَا قُعُودٌ. And they used to sit on the fire while the people were throwing the believers in the fire. وَمَا نَقُمُ مِنْهُمْ إِلَّا أَن يُؤْمِنُوا بِاللَّهِ الْعَزِيزِ الْحَمِيدِ. And they did not persecute them and burn them in the fire alive except because they believed in Allah Azza wa Jal. And that hadith that explains this story, and we're not going to get into the details of that hadith because this is just one of the many examples. It was the story of the young boy who was being taught magic, and then he had an opportunity to meet a man from the deen, and he found the fitrah in the deen. And then the king and the people who were against the boy who were with the king decided to try to kill him. And the boy told the king, this is what you have to do if you want to kill me. Subsequently, because of what the boy told the king in his instructions, the boy was killed, and all of the people accepted al-Islam by the efforts and the jihad of that one boy. And the story didn't end there. When the people made the ukhdud, or the pits filled with the fire, they were throwing the people in one by one, and one of the believing women, she was about to jump in the fire holding her child, and she hesitated. Maybe I should leave my deen. Maybe I should acquiesce and apologize. And the child said to the mother, and it wasn't a child in the cradle, so no one will mix this up with, only 3 people spoke in the cradle. It was a bigger child who was beyond the age of the cradle. The child said, go ahead, mother, jump in the fire because you're on the truth. Another example of how children can defend the deen. In addition to that, we have the story of Musa and his companion who was with him, Yusha ibn Nun, when he went out to look for Khidr, and the patience and the knowledge that's in that particular story. And we have all of those stories of the Quran, the Ashabul Kahf. Those people were being persecuted, those young people being persecuted because of their deen. وَرَبَطْنَا عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ إِذْ قَامُوا فَقَالُوا رَبُّنَا رَبُّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. And they started giving dawah to al-Islam and to a-Tawheed, to the point where the people persecuted them, and they made hijrah fi sabilillah for their deen before they backed up and apologized to the kuffar for their deen. And you can imagine, like now, many of the people around them who are older than them, you can imagine them making efforts for their deen, but when the pressure came down, people apologized. And they did what was haram in order to save their money, as the Prophet said was going to happen to us, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam. يأتي على الناس زمان لا يبالي المرء لا يبالي المرء أخذ منه أم من الحرام أم من الحلال. The time is going to come on the people where the person is not going to reflect or ponder or care. Where does he take it from? Where does he take his food, his money? Where does he take his deen? He's not going to care where he takes it from. Whether he takes it from what is haram or halal. Just as long as he can eat, as long as he can make money, as long as he can keep the job, as long as he can keep that thing that he covets so much, he doesn't care. But those young people, for their deen, they sacrificed and they defended the haqq, and Allah Azza wa Jal gave them the haqq and the victory. So when we look at the Quran, ikhwan, we don't have to look and say, oh, these stories happened centuries and centuries ago. It's not something that's happening now. Even with the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam wa radiyallahu anhum ajma'een, our example and the blueprint for us. the role and the efforts of those young people, like our Prophet's daughter, sallallahu alaihi wasallam wa radiyallahu anha, Fatima Zahra, when they were oppressing and persecuting the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and she alone stood up and asked those people from Quraysh, "Ataf'aluna hadha bi rajulin li'annahu yaqul Rabbi Allah?" Do you people do this to a man simply because he says, "My Lord is Allah"? So there are too many examples. What's the example we want to mention today, Ikhwan, that deserves mentioning? It is the example that has come to us and it has left without many people pondering over it, the seriousness of it. And that is a Muslim girl down in Luton who fought for her deen and who fought for the right to wear hijab. She has established the argument upon many of us. And this is the nasiha today, that the girl at the age of 14, she's only 16 now, she's not even a woman yet, she made jihad, fi sabilillah, the jihad with the lisan. She made the jihad with her heart. She ordered with what was correct and tried to prevent what was wrong. And unfortunately, the Muslims today are saying about her, she's going overboard, she's an extremist. And they have something in their heart against the effort that this one girl made in her jihad. When she made jihad, the jihad of the lisan, not the jihad of blowing people up indiscriminately and giving a bad name to our religion. She made the real jihad in al-Islam according to her ability. Jihad with hikmah, jihad with knowledge and fiqh. Allah Azza wa Jal gave her the nasr, and she defeated all of the kuffar with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's permission. If Allah helps you, there's no one who can defeat you. No matter how big the country is, no matter how many people are against you. If Allah assists you, no one can defeat you. And that's the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And He has promised that in ayat and ayat of the Quran. So as it relates to this issue, Ikhwani, I want to remind you brothers, and I want to ask you these questions in order to see how the argument or the hujjah has been established against you and you and you and you and you and me and your sister and your wife and your aunt and so forth and so on by this 14-year-old girl. And when did it ever happen in al-Islam, Ikhwan? When did it ever happen? Where a 14-year-old child made jihad and grown men don't make efforts a fraction of the jihad of a 14-year-old girl? When did that ever happen? And is it any puzzle as to why the Muslims are in the condition that we're in today? It's not a puzzle. It's not a puzzle. So as Allah has mentioned in the Quran concerning the son of Adam salawatullahi wassalamuhu alayhi, who killed the other brother. And as we mentioned before, and we want to mention it again because I have a question here that came to one of the revert Muslims. A lot of times, Ikhwan, we call Adam's sons Habil and Qabil, Cain and Abel. We have to be careful of the Israeliyat. The deen of Allah Azza wa Jal, this religion is a religion that we only believe in things based upon the text. We don't believe in things that come to us from the Bible or the Torah unless our religion supports it. So we only are in a position to say the son of Adam who killed his brother. We don't know what their names are. Someone may say, what's the big deal about that? The big deal about that is when we open up the door to take liberties and to start saying names and start believing things that have not been established in the deen by the Quran and the Sunnah, that's when we become like the Yahud and the Nasara. Adam's son who killed his brother, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and we want to pose this type of question to you. قَالَ يَا وَيْلَتَا أَعْجَزْتُ أَنْ أَكُونَ مِثْلَ هَذَا الْغُرَابِ فَأُوَارِي سَوْءَةَ أَخِي فَأَصْبَحَ مِنَ النَّادِمِينَ. After killing his brother and his body was on the face of the earth, a proof in the dalil of the heinous crime of murdering your own brother because of jealousy, Allah sent a crow, and the crow started to scratch the earth. And he looked at the crow and he said, woe unto me, could not have been similar to this crow, so that I could have dug a hole to hide the body of my brother, so that I can hide my crime, so that I can give my brother his haqq of not leaving his body on the top of the earth to decompose. So as he asked that question, we want to ask a similar question. To the men of our community, to the men who are sitting here, we want to ask the question: don't you understand that Allah Azza wa Jal has ordered and commanded that little girl at the age of 14, when she reaches the age of puberty, to wear the proper hijab and not to come out of the house without the proper hijab, because it's not permissible for her mahasin to be seen? Just as Allah ordered her to do that, Allah has ordered you to leave your beard. Allah has ordered you not to be musbil, not to walk around with your pants or your thobe or your izar below your trousers. Allah has ordered you not to shake hands with the woman who is with you in your job. Just as Allah ordered that girl who made jihad, He made a number of commandments to us. So if the girl can make jihad, why can't we make jihad and refuse to shake hands? Why can't we make jihad and refuse to say, okay, I'm going to dress in a way that's inappropriate Islamically, not inappropriate according to the kuffar? As it relates to the girl, your wife, your sister, your aunt, every single woman who's connected to you, that you have some sulta over her, you have some power over her, you have the power of a kalima, you have the ability to say to her, and she's mutabarrija, you have the ability to say to her, hey, this is a kabira from the kaba'ir, but we don't say anything. That girl has established the hujjah against you. Some of us, unfortunately, we are in marriages, unfortunately, arranged marriage, fell in love with the girl, you married the girl, you have to marry your cousin. Some of us are in these type of situations where we cannot say to our wives, don't watch that program, don't use the phone right now, don't let fulana in my house, don't go outside. Some men don't have the ability to say that to their wives. As a matter of fact, some men, their wives say that to them. He says, may I go to so-and-so's walima? She says, no, you're going to babysit today. I'm going to Center City, I'm going to do some shopping. Wallahi, it's like that with some people. When did that happen to the men of this ummah? So those women who are connected to us, ikhwani, who don't wear hijab, it's part of your job and your responsibility to give nasiha. It's part of your job and your responsibility to now say, look at that girl over there who did what she did. Now this is establishing the argument against me as it relates to the hijab especially. And I have to take the time out to address the issue with the women folk of my family. And if you don't, it is a kabira from the kaba'ir on you. A serious issue. The Prophet, he told us, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, la yadkhulul jannata ad-dayyuth. The man who is a dayyuth will not enter into the Jannah. The dayyuth, he's that man who, he doesn't have any ghira over his women. His daughter goes out, she has high heels on, she has tight jeans. His sister, someone who's close to him, who he has the ability to say, don't do that. She respects him, she may listen to him. He doesn't say to her anything, it's okay. She goes to school daily, and he doesn't have a problem with that. When she comes in, when she goes out. I do not support this concept of honor killings. Honor killings are haram. You cannot take the law into your own hand. But that seed that is inside of the heart of the Muslim, where some of us come from, where this mentality of honor killing was cultivated, that seed is from Islam. That ghira is from Islam. But you have to take it easy. You can't execute that because Islam doesn't allow that type of behavior. There will be anarchy in the earth if everyone was allowed to take revenge from people who did them wrong. So honor killings are haram and they're not honorable. They're fitna and fasad. No difference between that and blowing people up indiscriminately. Haram, haram, haram. But the point is that seed of ghira is from al-Islam. That a man would say, over my dead body will I be disrespected like that? What happened to the ghira of the Muslim men? So that lady has established the hujjah against us, that today a person should go back and say, I'm going to talk about this issue. And we know that it is a fact, as we mentioned when we described the situation of some of our women folk, as Allah Azza wa Jalla mentioned in the Quran, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu, inna min azwajikum wa awladikum aduwwan lakum fahdhuruhum. Oh, you believe, verily from some of your wives and some of your children, they are enemies to you. They are not ansar. They are not helpers to help you to go to Jannah. They are enemies. So beware of them. Take them as enemies. One of the interpretations of the ulama concerning taking our families as enemies, one of the interpretations is, do everything that you can possibly do to get the responsibility of what they're doing off of your shoulder. By giving nasiha, by making tawjih, by giving irshad, by saying something. So that girl has established the argument against the men as it relates to our women folk, and also as it relates to what Allah ordered you to do in terms of being musbil. Being musbil is a kabira from the kaba'ir. Rasulullah told us sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ma tahta al-ka'bayn fahuwa fin nar. Whatever is below the ankle bone is in the hellfire. The Rasul ﷺ was about to make the salat, as Al-Imam Abu Dawood has narrated this hadith in his Sunan. And the man came and he made salat musbil. So Rasulullah told him sallallahu alaihi wasallam, go back and make wudu, because you didn't make salat. The man went back. And then he told him, verily Allah does not accept the salat from the person who's musbil. There's some maqal in that hadith. Some scholars say it's authentic, some say it's not authentic. Let's say that it's not authentic. Being musbil is a kabira from the kaba'ir because of the many other ahadith. And it's not a small issue. Another point that I have to mention, ikhwan, before I forget this point, that is, it may be said, you know, that girl was from the group called Hizb Tahrir. And anyone who has been living in the UK for the last few years, he has some knowledge about Hizb Tahrir. He has some knowledge about their leaders who are from the most ignorant Muslims in the UK. Yes, Hizb Tahrir from the Ashabul Ahwa. Ashabul Ahwa. And you're not going to find a single scholar in the dunya who supports that. So you revert Muslims, you new Muslims, you Muslims, Ummah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. One of the ways you can know that a group is astray is when you don't find a single scholar supporting what they say. I challenge anyone here today, bring me one major scholar in Islam, a bona fide scholar, I will give you 500 pounds. One scholar who said Hizb Tahrir, their way is good. So the fact that 500 pounds, وَكَفَى بِاللَّهِ شَهِيدًا. Now how is it possible that Allah Azza wa Jalla is going to order us to be with the ulama, to be with the good ulama, and yet there's not a single scholar who will say yes, this is good. So the point is, I'm not here to praise Hizb Tahrir because I heard the girl was from Hizb Tahrir. I don't even know if that's true, if it's not true. But for the sake of argument, even if it's true, we take the haqq from wherever it comes from. That girl has established a sunnah that the Prophet said about her, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Man sanna fil Islami sunnatan hasana, kana lahu ajruha wa ajru man amila biha min ba'di, min ghayri an yunqas aw tunqas ujuruhum shay'a." Whoever establishes a good sunnah, he will get the reward of anyone who works by that sunnah after him, without their rewards being diminished one bit. She has allowed every Muslim girl in this country to go to school with hijab, according to the law. That's not your daughter, that's not my daughter. According to the law. So what is her mizan going to say Yawm al-Qiyamah? So it's not about Hizb Tahrir, it's about the haqq. And it's about the hijab, which is from the sha'air of al-Islam. ذَلِكَ وَمَنْ يُعَذِّمْ شَعَائِرَ اللَّهِ فَإِنَّهَا مِنْ تَقْوَى الْقُلُوبِ. Whoever exalts those institutions of Allah, it is a proof of the taqwa of the heart. Now after that question, ikhwan, do you realize, brothers, that the girl has established the hujjah against us? Those of you who your wives don't wear hijab, your daughters, your sisters, she established the hujjah. Those of us who understand that Allah also commanded the Muslim man to look a certain way, we can assimilate and we can be like the kuffar, easier than the women. But there are certain things you can't do. You can't cut your beard off. You can't be musbil, and so forth and so on. If she can make that jihad, you should be able to make the jihad. Secondly, ikhwan, and we end with this nasiha, is the second question that is posed to every Muslim sister who is 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. Here you have a little child who she's still a baby. She's only 16 now. She's not even a grown woman yet. And yet she had enough iman and enough taqwa and enough intellect to say, I'm going to establish my deen. So what does the girl who's 20 have to say who doesn't wear hijab? What does the girl who's 25 and 30 have to say? What do her classmates have to say? Unfortunately, ikhwan, the girl went to a school, the population was 79% Muslim. 79% Muslim. You would think with such a high population, those people would gladly support our religion because those Muslims are practicing the deen. But we're sending mixed signals. So the school said what? The school said to the girl, what about all of those? Why don't you just be quiet and don't be a troublemaker? What about Fatima and Aisha and your sister and your aunt? What about those girls? Why aren't they wearing the hijab? All the girl could say is, look, I'm responsible for my own self. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu alaykum anfusakum la yadurrukum man dalla idha ihtadaytum. Oh, you believe, you are responsible for your own selves. It doesn't hurt you, those who go astray. I'm only responsible for myself. So I, along with this brother and that brother and that brother, we have to go in order to network and interface with the local newspaper or the local councilwoman. And when we go into the office, she, being a kafira, extends her hand to shake our hands. I shake her hand, he shakes her hand, he shakes her hand, and the third one says, Wallahi, that's a kabira from the kaba'ir, I don't shake hands. She says, well, what about the other two? What about the other three? Mixed signals. So we have to practice our deen, ikhwan. So the sister who is above the age of this girl, we tell them what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, وَقُلِ الْمُؤْمِنَاتِ يَغْضُضْنَ مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِنَّ وَيَحْفِظْنَ فُرُوجَهُنَّ وَلَا يُبْدِينَ زِينَتَهُنَّ إِلَّا مَا ظَهَرَ وَلْيَضْرِبْنَ بِخُمُرِهِنَّ عَلَى جُيُوبِهِنَّ. Tell the believing women, the hijab is a sign of iman, that they believe in Allah and His Messenger. ما كان لمؤمن ولا مؤمنة إذا قضى الله ورسوله أمرا أن يكون لهم الخيرة من أمرهم. It's not befitting for a believing man and a believing woman if Allah and His Messenger decide something to have any say so. Tell the believing women that they should lower their gaze. And tell the believing women that they also should protect their privates. And tell the believing women that they should not display their zina except what must naturally, ordinarily appear. Abdullah ibn Abbas said what should necessarily, ordinarily appear is her face and her hands. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud said what should necessarily appear from a zina when she goes out is that one eye can be seen. Let a woman wear niqab and hijab with one eye. The Muslim's going to say, she's mutakhalifa. She's backwards. She's extreme. Was Abdullah ibn Mas'ud extreme? Radiyallahu anhu. The one who the Prophet said about him, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, his one leg in the scales is heavier than the mountain of Uhud, Yawm al-Qiyamah. So when we have aversions and problems with these types of positions, you have to realize you don't necessarily have that problem only with Fulan and Alan and Adnan, min al-nas. You have that problem with Allah. You have that problem with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, with Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. And tell them to take their khimar, and to let their khimar come over their chest. The shirwal khamis, I don't know what it's called. The Asian clothing, that is not enough for the Muslim woman to wear. Let her take her khimar and put it over her chest. The Prophet ﷺ entered into the home of our mother Aisha radiallahu anha. And Aisha, to prove to you that the Muslim woman wears the hijab and the jilbab and the proper clothing, she told a group of women who came from Syria that were wearing clothes that were revealing. She said, if you people are believing women, then this is not the dress of believing women. But if you're other than believing women, then Allah musta'an for what you're doing. The believing woman does not allow herself to go out. Ali asked his wife Fatima radiallahu anha, who was raised in a home of prophecy, Ya Fatima, what's the most beloved thing to the believing woman? What's the most beloved thing to the believing woman? Fatima said, radiallahu anha, who her tarbiyah was given by the khatam of the anbiya and the rasul, salawatullah wa salamu alayhi. Look at the answer. She said, the most beloved thing to the believing woman is that she is not seen by men who are not her mahram. It's the most beloved thing to her, not to be seen. So when Allah told the women in the Quran, وَقَرْنَ فِي بُيُوتِكُنَّ وَلَا تَبَرَّجْنَ تَبَرَّجَ الْجَاهِلِيَّةِ الْأُولَى, He said, stay in your homes, you women, and don't make the display of the times of al-jahiliyyah. If the woman stayed in her house a month's time, taking care of her children, her husband's home, her husband's father, her husband's mother, taking care of her honor, and she didn't come out except after a month, the other Muslims will say, oh, she's mutakhalifa, she's backwards, she's oppressed. Allah told her, stay in your home. But if she had to come out because she's a teacher, it's permissible. She has a job that's halal. She's a student, it's permissible. If she did find herself forced to go out amongst the public, وَلَا يُبْدِينَ زِينَتَهُنَّ, do not let them show their zina, and don't make the display of the time of al-jahiliyyah. What was the display of the time of jahiliyyah? The girl would put on her leg some bangles, and she would walk down the street, and the bangles would make noises, and the men, while they were sitting, they would look, and she would walk in a way in which was seductive, like the Muslim women today. She wears the high heel shoes, so when she walks down the street, you hear the noise, cluck, 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 cluck. That's the tabarruj of the times of al-jahiliyyah. She used to wear perfume like the Muslim woman wears today. She would go out to beautify herself, to tell the men, look at me. And look, ikhwan, in our aqidah, the aqidah of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, the aqidah of Ahlul Hadith, and I'm not talking about Ahlul Hadith al-Jam'iyyah, I'm talking about the people who take the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which are the explanation of that Quran. In our aqidah, when we find in the Quran and the Sunnah that Allah has cursed someone, we never go and say, hey, you're cursed. Hey, you're cursed. Ayatul munafiq thalatha. إذا حدث كذب. وَإِذَا وَعَدَ أَخْلَفَ وَإِذَا اؤْتُمِنَ خَانَ. The signs of the munafiq, 3. If he speaks, he lies. If he promises, he breaks the promise. If you entrust him with something, he breaks the trust. So we know someone who lies. We, in our aqidah, don't go and say to that person, you are a munafiq. We don't say this to someone specifically. It's haram, not permissible. We'll say to a person in our aqidah, you're doing the actions of the munafiqeen. You're doing the actions of the kuffar. But you don't say to a person, you're a kafir, because he's doing something of kufr. But did you know, as it relates to at-tabarruj and the hijab of the woman, Rasulullah ordered us to curse them. Rasulullah ordered us, when you see a girl walking in public without hijab, to curse her directly. Authentic hadith. قال صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وسلم سيكون في آخر أمتي نساء كاسيات عاريات على رؤوسهن كأسنمة البخت العنوهن فإنهن ملعونات. There are going to come a group of people from the last part of my ummah. those who live close at the time of the Sa'ah. They're going to be a group of people, the last part of my ummah. In another hadith he said, Lam arahum ba'd. Sinfan min ummati, lam arahuma ba'd. There are two groups from my ummah, I have not seen them. They weren't present during the time of the companions. They're going to come at the last time. He said one group, a group of women who will be dressed, but they'll be naked. She has jeans on, but the jeans are skin tight. She has black pants on, but they're skin tight. She has a top on, but you can see all of the definition and the contours of her beauty. She's dressed, but she's undressed. She's naked. And on her head, the way she will fix her hair is like the hump of the camel. He said, curse them, for verily they are cursed. إِلْعَنُوهُنَّ فَإِنَّهُنَّ مَلْعُونَاتٍ. Curse them, he ordered, curse them, because they are cursed. You're not going to find texts like that, where Rasulullah told you to curse someone like that. It's a kabira from the kaba'ir. And Allah Azza wa Jal, for whatever reason the hikmah is with him, has allowed this thing to be established against us with these young sisters. So we're going to say to you, Ikhwan, in our advice, and we're going to stop here, insha'Allah ta'ala. Those of you who have sisters, it's not enough that you are practicing this religion. We do not say to our family members, lakum dinukum waliya deen. We do our best to try to save our families from the hellfire. Give them nasiha. And those of you who have the ability, you're supporting them, use your money to make them do the right thing. Salama radiallahu anha, or Sulaym. When Abu Talha wanted to marry Sulaym, a woman who was virtuous, a man who was virtuous wanted to marry her. A man of virtue wants to marry. She said, Abu Talha, you're a man who no woman in her right mind would ever refuse your request to marry. But you are mushrik. I'm not going to bend the rules. I'm not going to marry a Sikh. You are mushrik. If you say La ilaha illallah, that'll be my dowry. She used her position with the man to cause him to come into Islam. And it happened too many times with the companions. They will use their position with the people to cause them to come into the religion of Islam. Use your position with the people. You can't use my car. You can't do this. I won't pay for your education. I'm not going to do this for you. I'm not going to do that for you. And then there are those people like me who have total, absolute power over your women folk. Those people you can say, Alhamdulillah, وَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. Talk about the ni'mah of your Lord. Some of you have the ability to say to your wife, no, don't turn that TV on. Don't turn that TV on until I say it's okay, because I'm the imam of this place. So ni'mah, that doesn't mean that you go around, I'm a macho man, I have the muscles. What it means is that you take responsibility of your ra'iyah, your flock. Those of you who have that with your families, don't let shaitan make you think it's only a responsibility of your wife. Yes, it's a responsibility of your wife, but also your sister and your brothers' wives and your aunties and other than that. So that's our nasiha to you today, inshallah. We'll take 3 questions, if there are 3 questions from the floor concerning today's nasiha. And then these 3 questions, and that's it, inshallah. Hal min su'al, ikhwan? Any questions? This brother here was the first one who gave me this question. He was asking about, it's not related to the topic. This one is related to the topic. What about the hadith of those who wear their pants below their ankles without being arrogant? Concerning the hadith, the Muslim is the individual who he reads all of the texts of Islam, all of the texts, the Quran, all of what the Sunnah says about a particular issue, and then he comes out with a natija, or a result and an answer. He doesn't just read part of the text, wailun lil musallin, woe unto those who pray, and then he's quiet and he says, I'm not going to pray. Taha وَمَا أَنزَلْنَا الْقُرْآنِ. Taha, we did not reveal the Quran, and he stops. Or he picks it up and he says, أَنزَلْنَا الْقُرْآنِ لِتَشْقَى. We revealed the Quran so to be heavy for you. He doesn't do that. He reads all of the ayat in their different places and all of the sunnah in their different places, and he brings them together. And that's how he comes up with a complete, comprehensive understanding of any given topic. Unlike the Yahud, from their characteristics, يُحَرِّفُونَ الْكَلِمَ عَنْ مَوَاضِعِهِ. They take the word and put it in other than its right place. They play around with the words. So as it relates to the issue of al-isbal, the kabira from the kaba'ir, there's one hadith that is more than enough without dealing with the issue in detail. And the Prophet, he said about this hadith, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam, إِيَّاكُمْ وَإِسْبَالَ الْإِزَارِ فَإِنَّهَا مِنَ الْمَخِيلَةِ. Beware, be careful of al-isbal, because it is arrogance. Beware of having isbal, because being musbil without the niyat, just being musbil, is kibr, it's makhila. Yes, there are those ahadith that say whoever do it, من جر ثوبه خيلاء لا ينظر الله إليه يوم القيامة. Whoever drags his thobe with arrogance, Allah won't look at him يوم القيامة. Yes, Abu Bakr say, Ya Rasulullah, inni ata'ahud izari. Ya Rasulullah, mine keep falling down, but I keep pulling it up. He said, you don't do it out of arrogance. But Abu Bakr kept pulling it up. He didn't just say, leave it down there, this is making me tired. Nor did he start the day off with it down there. But the point is, Ikhwan, he told us, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, to be musbil in and of itself is arrogance, whether it's your niyyah or it's not your niyyah. And he said in the hadith that we already mentioned, whatever is below the ankle bone, it is in the hellfire. And he didn't describe or give any details what's below it with khiyala by mistake. He just said a general statement. Someone may say, this is a small issue though. The Muslims are getting killed. Iraq, Philistine, Kashmir. Look at this, look at that. Someone may say that. But it wasn't a small issue to the companions. Umar radiallahu anhu, after being stabbed in the salah and taken to his home, they gave him a drink of milk, and they saw the milk pouring out of the intestines of Umar. So they knew Umar is going to die, inshallah. This is a sign he's not going to survive. So the people began to come to visit him, to pay tribute to him and homage. Golden age of al-Islam. Umar radiallahu an Umar, and radiallahu an durrat Umar. And may Allah also be pleased with the stick that Umar used to hit the people in the head, because we need that stick to that. Umar on his deathbed saw the man coming in with his thobe, and he gave Umar some words, be patient, you get your reward with Allah, so forth, so. The boy started going out. Umar told the boy, irfa' izarak, فَإِنُّ أَتْقَى لِرَبِّكَ وَأَطْهَرَ لِثَوْبِكَ. Umar's dying. He said, hey, lift up your thobe, lift it up, because it's more taqwa to your Lord and it's cleaner for your thobe. Wallahi, ikhwan, Umar could have preoccupied himself with preparing himself for the sakarat al-maut, the drunkenness that comes with death, asking Allah for istighfar. He was from the muhaddithin, not the muhaddith like the hadith muhaddith, the muhaddith, the ones who inspiration comes to them and it's almost like revelation. He knew those other issues to preoccupy himself with. He told the boy, Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi al Munkar, in that place, hey, do this, do that. People today, you tell someone, you talk about this issue, they say, what is this? Our brother, he asked the issue, and these are the last two questions, inshallah, about the malaika, when Allah Azza wa Jal told Adam to prostrate. When Allah Azza wa Jal told the malaika to prostrate to Adam, he said that he read, in which some of the scholars said that when the angels said, are you going to create in the earth one who is going to shed blood and make mischief in the earth, and we glorify you? So the brother wanted to know, how did the malaika know that? Because he heard or he read where some of the scholars said that they were given information of what had happened prior to that. Al-Imam Ibn Kathir rahimahullah ta'ala, who is one of the illustrious imams in al-Islam, and he is from the madrasa of Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah. Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, he has one of the best and comprehensive tafsirs, but it is not the best tafsir. The best tafsir that you can get, ikhwani, is the tafsir of Imam Muhammad ibn Jarir al-Tabari, and it is the best tafsir because A, he was a muhaddith. He was a muhaddith of his dunya. Muhammad ibn Jarir al-Tabari, Muhammad ibn Khuzaymah, Abu Bakr Muhammad ibn Khuzaymah, the one who wrote Kitab al-Tawheed. They were the ulama of al-hadith during their time. His book is the best book of tafsir because Muhammad ibn Jarir al-Tabari says, for every single ayah, حدثني فلان قال حدثه فلان قال حدثه فلان قال Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Every single thing has a chain of narration. So if you want to see if the tafsir is authentic or not, the way we know is through the chain of narration. And what did the scholars used to say about the chain of narration, like Abdullah bin Mubarak? Abdullah bin Mubarak used to say, لولا الإسناد وقال من شاء ما شاء في الدين الله. If it wasn't for the isnad, anyone would have said whatever he wanted to say in the religion. But with the isnad, we can go back to find out, is that authentic, is that not authentic? As it relates to all of the stories of what happened with Adam, all of those stories with the malaika knowing and all of this, and Iblis was a boss of the jinn and all, he was a commander, all of that is not authentic, it's from the Israeliyat. So we say, Allahu A'lam. We don't know the reality of any of that. All we know is Adam was created, put in Jannah. The Jannah, we don't know which Jannah. Is it the Jannah that the people will go to, the one that we ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to put us in? We don't know if it's that Jannah. Some of the ulama said it's not that Jannah, because in that Jannah there is no laghu, and there's no kadhib, and there's no ma'asiyah. Or was it another Jannah? We know that he was created after the malaika, created after the jinn. We know that Iblis is from the jinn and not the malaika, but he happened to be amongst the malaika at that particular time. But no doubt he was from the jinn. Kana min al-jinn fafasaqa an amri rabbi. He was from the jinn and he disobeyed the affair of his Lord. So this brother who's a revert, I say, for the sake of knowledge, you can read. Ibn Kathir is in English, read it, but it is not authentic. Al-Imam Ibn Kathir is bringing it just to explain to you, and he himself said it's from the Israeliyat, the narrations that come from the Jews and the Christians. So we don't believe any of that. Narrated, it's there, but we don't believe it. The last question, ikhwan, is in New York, in the USA, there is a woman, a sister, who will be giving a khutbah and leading the salah. Can you advise the Muslims on this issue? In the next few days, inshallah, ikhwan, this is a big issue there in America. A Muslim woman, because of the pressure from the United Nations, they pressured the Muslims all across the globe. They want Muslims to give women equal rights. Women have their rights in al-Islam. They put pressure on them. So many of the representatives from the United Nations are going to go to this big masjid in New York, and there's going to be a Muslim sister who's going to give the khutbah, and she's going to lead the salah. She's going to give the khutbah, and she's going to lead the salah. That's going to be this week. This is not the first time this has happened. Happened in the 70s, 80s with Rashad Khalifa, the one who wrote those books about the miracle of number 19. Bilal Phillips, he made a refutation of that. Rashad Khalifa is a murtad. He was killed from Phoenix, Arizona. He also came up with these heretical views. Before I say what I have to say, ikhwan, very quickly, we want you brothers to be students of knowledge. I want to see from amongst you, how are you going to defend this issue and prove that it's not permissible? How are we going to defend here the religion of Abul Qasim sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Everyone knows that it's not permissible. Everyone knows. But we want to know the dalil, the clear dalil, that it's not permissible for a woman to lead the khutbah or the salah. So, from the audience, let me see, where's the dalil? Let's defend our religion, which goes to show why you have to have knowledge, because you never know who you're going to be confronted with, and you need the ability to give the dalil. So ikhwan, with a show of hands, someone show me the first dalil why this is haram. Now, akhuna, what's your name? Shizan. Shazad. Naam akhi, Shazad. Keep thinking ikhwan while Shazad gives us the first dalil.
The nation who allows a woman to lead the nation, to lead the nation.
The dalil that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam ikhwani sent a letter to the king of Persia. The Rasul of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave him the letter. Accept Islam, called him to Islam. The man took the letter and ripped it up out of disrespect. Made a lot of problems. Called his man in Yemen, told the man in Yemen, send 2 strong men to Muhammad in Medina. He made a lot of problems. When those 2 men came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to say to him that the king who he was in Persia, they had big mustaches like handlebars in the bicycle. Rasulullah said to them sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Waylakuma man amarakuma bihadha." Woe unto you. Who ordered you to do that? They said, "Our Lord," meaning the Persian king. Rasulullah said sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Wa amarni rabbi an tu'fa liha wa tuqass ash-shawarib." And my Lord ordered that the beard should be left and the mustache should be trimmed. So who we going to follow? And then Rasulullah told them when he saw their arrogance, "You need to know that my Lord has destroyed your Lord." The messenger of Allah didn't even come back yet from Persia. You should know that my Lord destroyed your Lord. And he used the word mazzaqahu because the man ripped up the letter. Mazzaqa, risalat Rasulillah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. After the Persian king died, his daughter became the leader over the people. So the Prophet, when he heard that, he told him sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as our brother Shizad said, "Lan yaflihu qawm wallu amruhum al-mar'a." A group of people will never be successful who cause a woman to be in charge of their affairs. This is our masjid. We have a shura. No, a woman cannot be the president of the shura. Wala karama. Can she be on the shura? Yeah, maybe we can have a sister to find out what they have to say. You represent the voice of the women, no problem. But can she be the president? La. Can she be the vice president in trying to be fair? No, she can't be the vice president. She doesn't have those positions. Wala kirama. Good job, Akhi Shazad. If you are a husband and your wife is in control, the auntie in the home is in control, this hadith is applicable. This hadith is applicable. Good job, Shazad. Anyone else, Ikhwani? How do we defend this? The dalil is not permissible. Faddal, faddal. Akhi, Israr.
Verse in the Quran that mentions that the men are the protectors and the maintainers of the women.
Another clear ayat, al-rijalu qawwamuna ala nisa. The men are over the women. Why? Bima faddala Allahu bihi ba'dhum ala ba'd. Because Allah has favored them over them. And that's one of the ways that Allah Azza wa Jal favored the women, the men over the men. Good job, Akhi Israr. Someone else had his hand up? We want some really clear adillah.
I was going to say the same, but we haven't got any example in the life of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam or Khulafa Rashidin that the woman led the prayers or gave.
That's one of the strongest dalils, Ikhwani. Come on, Ikhwan, more of you should be having your hand up, especially the people who claim that you are on the aqidah and the way, the minhaj of the Salaf as-Salih. That's the first thing that should have came to your mind. Because our religion is the Quran and the Sunnah according to the way the Salaf of this Ummah understood those 2 sources. And not once did we have a woman come in to lead the people in the Salah. Not only that, Anas ibn Malik said about our mother Aisha radiallahu anha, we never had ikhtilaf about anything except when we took it to Aisha, we found the haqq with her. And when Aisha was praying in the month of Ramadan, she had a slave boy who she used to allow to read the Quran holding the mushaf. She was a hafiz of the Quran. She was better than him. And she let him lead the salah holding the mushaf, a dalil that the ulama used to show the permissibility of holding the mushaf in the Quran, even if it's disliked. She did it. Why? Because the guy didn't memorize the Quran, so it was a necessity. Clearly Aisha could have said, I'm the mother of the believers, I'm more knowledgeable than you. Rasulullah told us, let the one who memorized the most Quran lead the salah. She could have said, I'm following that sunnah. But she got him to lead the salah. Not once, ikhwan, did we find a single woman in all of Islam ever leading the men in the salah. Not only that, I'm going to come to you, little man. Not only that, ikhwan, but some of the ulama of Islam, they used to have women as their scholars, as their teachers. Al-Imam al-Bukhari had women. Al-Imam al-Shafi. Al-Imam Ibn Asakir, tremendous scholar of hadith. He has a book called Kitab Tarikh. Tarikh Damashq. The story of the narrators, the biographies of the narrators who went into the city of Damascus in Syria. Volumes, 36 volumes of the book. He had 80 women as his teacher. 80 women. And they used to take the qira'at from some of these women. These women used to be the most prolific and the most knowledgeable people with a particular qira'ah. She knew the Quran better than everyone else. Never did the Khalifa say, let Aisha, the alima, lead the people. Let so-and-so, the one who's teaching the muallima of the Quran, lead the people in the salah. You never even read this, that Muslims have that sickness, that they will even think about that. A woman getting in front of the people. Now, the little brother, let's see if the haqq is on the lisan of the little brother. And I think it's going to be, inshallah. MashaAllah. What's your name? Hamza. The Sheikh Hamza, he said, Ikhwani, the dalil, and it is a dalil. خير صفوف الرجال أولها وشرها آخرها وخير صفوف النساء آخرها وشرها أولها. The best row for the men is the first row, and the worst row for the men is the last row. The best row for the women is the last row, and the worst row for the women is the first row. Why is it the worst row? Because of the close proximity between the men and the women. The ikhtilat, the mixing in the masjid between the men and the women. So during the time of Islam, especially in the beginning in Medina, when they used to be very poor, they used to be fuqara, the Prophet would order the women, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when I come up from sajda, you women, take your time coming up. Don't come up as soon as you hear me say Allahu Akbar from sajda. Take your time. Why? Because the men in the last row used to be so poor that they would just have one piece of clothing, and some of their aura would be exposed. So he didn't want the women to see the aurat of the men. Some may say, but if his aura is exposed, then no salah. That's how fuqara they were. That's how poor they were at that time. So those people who tell us you can wipe on the sock or the khufs, but it can't have a hole in it, it has to be new, you have to be able to walk 300 miles in it, wallahi, that's kadhib. Companions had bad khufs, bad socks, holy socks. Some of them didn't have anything but their khufs. So Rasulullah allowed them, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to make hajj in their khufs. He said, cut off the ankle part. And then later on he allowed them to even wear it with the ankle, because that's all they had. So that's in the masjid, ikhwan. So how is the woman now going to come from there to get in front of us, to make sajda in front of us? And from the sunnah, ikhwan, and it should be a sunnah that we should bring to life in this masjid, the people who are the ulama from amongst us in this masjid, the knowledgeable ones in this masjid, those kind of people, you should allow the people who know the fiqh of al-Islam to be in the front. If they come late, if they are over here, we should say, come here. You switch places with them. Why? Because that person has to look at the imam, to let the people behind him know what the imam is doing. إِنَّمَا جُئِلَ الْإِمَامِ لِيُؤْتَمَّ بِهِ. The imam has been made so that he can be followed. So there are certain sunnahs that the imam does, you should do it. He goes into the first sajda, and then he goes into the first jalsa, and he's on the balls of his feet. You can't see that back there. It's those people who look at him. They have to look at him. They're looking at him. So they go on the balls of their feet. And then the people in the next row know that's what's going on. And the next row and the next row. And the whole people are Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Not Safu Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Safay as-Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Ahl as-Sunnah wal Jama'ah, the whole masjid. But we got to raise the level of knowledge in our masjid. We have to raise the level of knowledge in our masjid. Good job, Akhi Hamza. 2 more and that's it, Ikhwan. My man right here. What's your name, Akhi? Riyadh. Riyadh, where you from?
From Palestine.
Where at in Palestine?
Palestine. Now,
What part of Palestine?
from Jenin area, village in Jenin.
أحسن الله إليك يا أخي. كيف أهلك هناك؟
الحمد لله.
الله يحفظهم. تفضل.
بارك الله فيك. أمنا عائشة رضي الله عنها said, and I think it's related to the same issue. If لو علم رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ما فعل النساء لمنعهن المساجد, and it was خير الأزمان على زمن أمنا عائشة. فالله أعلم it's related to the same issue that when you go to pray.
Our brother Riyadh. أنت أبو من يا رياض؟
إن شاء الله أبو محمد.
Our brother Abu Muhammad Riyadh from Palestine, from Jenin. He said that there's an authentic athar that our mother Aisha radiallahu anha, she said, if Allah knew, if Rasulullah knew what the women were doing today, this was after his death. If Rasulullah knew what the women were doing, he would have prevented them from the masjid. A lot of the scholars reject this statement of Aisha, and they also give it its tawjih, its proper understanding. Scholars say, first of all, that Allah Azza wa Jal said in the Quran, وَمَا كَانَ رَبُّكَ نَسِيًّا. Your Lord was not forgetful. So he knew what was going to happen with the women later on, and he still allowed them to come to the masjid. The second thing is, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't know the unseen, but Allah allowed him to come to know that. He knew about that in some of the hadith that we mentioned, that the woman would come out, kasiyat, ariyat, dressed but naked, coming to the masjid with itar on. He called them zaniyat. He knew, and he still didn't stop them. But the tawjih, or the way we understand it, is Aisha was saying that to a group of people, showing how the fasad and corruption is nowhere compared to what we're living, but it began to develop at that time. But it was on a small scale, but she made inkar about it because the society was so pure. Don't think a lot of people were coming to the masjid doing anything and everything. La. Ignorant people from the Bedouins were coming. People were coming, new Muslims, Persians. People were not Arabs who didn't know about the religion. So ignorant, foolish things were happening. Ignorant people were doing foolish things. So from that angle, she said that. So that can be a dalil, but it is an indication of what we're dealing with. Look at this. A woman gonna come and make salah in the masjid in front of us. Now you Jews. This is the last one. Anyone else have a dalil, ikhwan? Because we don't want you to go home and you say, oh, he didn't choose me, I had the dalil. Just you two? You two? Alright, we'll exhaust the audience and that's it. You too, Sheikh? You have one?
Yeah, roughly, yeah.
You guys are doing good.
It says something like, if they want to come to the mosque, you shouldn't stop them, but the best place for them is...
Now, another dalil, ikhwan, is what the Sheikh said. That number one, can't think of the hadith. The meaning of the hadith is that the Rasul ﷺ said that the woman's salat in her home is better than the salat in the masjid. The woman doesn't have to come to the masjid. هناك كلام قبل هذا ولكن هذا هو الشاهد. ما هكذا ولكن بداية الحديث هناك بداية ما استحضرها.
قال لا تمنعوا إماء الله مساجد.
نعم هذا هو. لا تمنعوا أماء الله مساجد الله وصلاتها في بيتها خير لها. Don't prohibit the handmaidens of Allah from coming to the masjid, but her home is better. Akramakallah ya akhi. Her home is better. So the woman, ikhwan, she doesn't have to come to the masjid, and salat in her home is better. Why? إذا خرجت المرأة استشرفها الشيطان. If the woman comes out of her home, shaitan beautifies her. If she's coming to the masjid in hijab and jilbab correctly, correctly with taqwa. Go into the masjid to memorize the Quran, to complete the last juz of the Quran. That's all she needs. With ikhlas, she's going to do it. Wallahi, shaitan beautifies her. There's someone who's not married, someone who is married, who's looking at her, and he's not lowering his eyes, and she's a married girl or not a married girl. Shaitan beautifies her because people are looking at her who shouldn't be looking at her. And the wind is blowing at that particular time, and she becomes a fitna for this brother and that person. 4 people don't have to come to the salah. Salatul Jummah. The lady, the slave, the young child, and the person who is sick. So if one of you is really sick, you have a migraine, you have a headache, even though you live over there on the next street, Coventry Street, whatever, you don't have to come to the masjid. So she doesn't have to make the salah in the masjid, and her house is better. But this is not a dalil that is very qawi in terms of the wajh al-istidlal. It's not very qawi. Because they're saying, the girl is saying, the lady may say, I didn't say it's wajib, I'm just saying I'm doing it mustahab. So the etiquette of it is clear, but it's not a strong dalil. Shaykh, indaka shay? Nafs al-hadith. Okay, our last 2 brothers here, you and then you. Anta Sadiq, mashallah.
I was just going to say, kullu bid'atin dalala.
Now that's a dalil that will be connected to what the brother said. From what I remember, ikhwan, now.
It's allowed to women pray janazah prayer. Is women praying janazah behind the...
Yeah, but that's not a dalil. From what I remember, what comes to...
It's a question.
Oh yes, of course, the woman can pray the janazah prayer.
I'm confused when I was...
The woman can pray...
The woman praying janazah.
The woman can pray the janazah prayer back there with the men. From the strongest dalils, ikhwan, from the strongest dalil is the ijma' of the ulama. The ijma' of the ulama. There's not a scholar in the dunya who ever said this was permissible. £1,000 for anyone who can find a scholar in the dunya who said this. The main books of ijma', the book of Al-Imam Ibn Hazm al-Andalusi, Maratib al-Ijma', is in there. A book by Imam Muhammad ibn Ibrahim ibn al-Mundhir, Al-Ijma', Kitab al-Ijma' is in there. The 3rd most famous book in Ijma', I don't know if it's in there or not, but I would think so. It's the book by Imam al-Fasi, for those people who were Maliki. He has his book called Al-Iqna' fi Masail al-Ijma', where the scholars would say, they would write, وَأَجْمَعُوا عَلَى عَدَمْ جَوَازِ صَلَاةِ الْمَرْأَةِ إِمَامٍ. And the scholars are in agreement that women can't pray as the imam. You're going to find it there. And the ijma' is a dalil in our deen. The Prophet says, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, لَن تَجْتَمِعَ أُمَّتِي عَلَى الضَّلَالَةِ. My ummah will never come together on a consensus on something that's wrong. Never. So how is it possible all of the scholars took that position? In the Quran, وَمَنْ يُشَاقِقَ الرَّسُولِ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ الْهُدَى وَيَتَّبِعْ غَيْرَ سَبِيلِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ نُوَلِّهِ مَا تَوَلَّى وَنُسْلِهِ جَهَنَّمَ وَسَاءَتْ مَصِيرًا. Whoever opposes the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he goes against the way of the believers, the ijma' of the ulama, the way of all of the believers, he goes against it. After the knowledge has come to him, we will lead him to the way in which he wants to go, and we'll lead him into the hellfire. The last thing we'll mention, ikhwan, concerning all of this for our sisters, our wives, and our daughters in issues like this, is that our wives should hate this. Our mother, Salima, radiyallahu anha, she went to Rasulullah, she said, Ya Rasulullah, the men make jihad and the women don't make jihad. And the men get 2 portions to the woman's 1 portion in the mirath. The man leaves 75 pounds as the inheritance. The boy, he has 1 boy, 1 girl, that's all. The boy gets 50 pounds, the girl gets 25. He gets 2 portions to the girl's 50, to the girl's 1. So she was saying, why is that, Ya Rasulullah? Why is that? And then Allah revealed those ayahs from Surah An-Nisa. وَلَا تَتَمَنُّوا مَا فَضَّلَ اللَّهُ بِهِ بَعْضَكُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ لِلرِّجَالِ نَصِيبٌ مِّمَّا اكْتَسَبُوا وَلِلنِّسَاءِ نَصِيبٌ مِّمَّا اكْتَسَبْنَا وَاسْأَلُوا اللَّهَ مِن فَضْلِهِ. Allah revealed this ayah. This is in the Tirmidhi. When she asked that question, the ayah came down and it said, you men and you women, do not go after, do not desire what Allah gave some of you over others. Men don't desire to be like women. Women don't desire to be like men. To the men is the portion of what they did, they'll get their reward. To the women is the portion of what they did, they'll get their reward. All of you should ask Allah from His fadl. So what man in his right mind who has trouble getting up for Fajr, he's going to say one day, oh, I wish I was a woman so I could just sleep 5, 6, 7 days without getting up for Fajr. Who in his right mind is going to say that? And what woman is going to say, I want to be the khatib in the masjid, I want to be the imam of the men? The woman says, I wish I can have 4 husbands so that you can see how it feels. Like your fitrah has been corrupted and destroyed. Something is wrong with your fitrah. So that's how Allah made our deen. And what Allah chose, ikhwan, is enough for us. So we're going to stop here, inshallah. And I just want to say, ikhwan, maybe someone can let us stay here tonight. I don't know. Our driver may not be able. He's okay. هذا وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.